Hello guys, Chris here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the brand new GeForce RTX 4080 Super. This one is really big in 19 popular titles. Let's go over its specs first. And I'll need to put it down because it's really heavy as well. Like, thing is the size of my head, dude. It's bigger than my head. Alright, specs wise, the RTX 4080 Super is very similar to the RTX 4080. It's based on the same AD103 die, but the Super has the fully unlocked AD103. It has 10,240 CUDA cores, which is a 5% increase over the 4080, the same 16GB of GDDR6X memory with a 256-bit memory bus, this time with slightly higher memory clocks resulting in a slightly higher bandwidth. It also has slightly more RT cores and tensor cores as well as ROPs, same TMUs, and you get where I'm going with this. It's a slightly better card than the RTX 4080. You can expect a 2 to 5% performance bump depending on the game. That's not a lot for a Super. The real difference, however, comes with its price. It's a $200 cheaper GPU, at least in MSRP, than the RTX 4080. And if it actually does come out at $1,000, it could be a pretty compelling option for somebody looking for a GPU in that price range. I still wish it was closer in performance and maybe in VRAM as well to an RTX 4090, because the gap between the 4080 and the 4090 is still pretty huge, and so is the gap between the 4080 Super and the 4090, because this is almost the same as the 4080 again. But hey, a price drop is always welcomed. Finally, I am pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D with the non-3D cores disabled, so we get higher gaming performance out of it, 32GB of DDR5 6000MHz CL30 RAM in dual channel, and a 2TB SSD for the games. Let's enjoy some beautiful 4K graphics now, shall we? Let's start with Cyberpunk 2077 with a Phantom Liberty DLC. We're playing at 4K resolution using the Ultra Settings preset, but I'm gonna make a couple of changes. First, I'm gonna disable the resolution scaling, so we are at native resolution, and down here I will disable these options because I don't really like them and most people don't really use them anyways. Everything else is at the Ultra preset. Let's go. Oh boy, look at that. Look at our FPS getting 50s and 40s right here, guys. That is insanely intensive. This game on ultra settings and 4K resolution is so demanding. And we are playing the Phantom Liberty DLC over here in Dogtown as well, which is pretty much the most intensive area in the entire game. Apparently, a 4080 Super isn't enough to get a 60 FPS all of the time. Now let's enable DLSS on quality here. This looks extremely good at 4K. It's basically native resolution, if not better looking because it adds a little bit of sharpening. And now we're getting a much smoother 60 FPS experience, although it will probably still drop. Yep, there we go. It dips into the 50s sometimes. I guess like an overclocked version of the 4080 Super would probably not even dip into the 50s, so there we go. It's basically 4K resolution, it looks like 4K anyways, and it's finally getting us those 60 plus FPS. It's not really that amazing of an experience still, but it's way smoother than what we saw previously, that's for sure. And this is where frame generation comes in, my friends. I'm gonna turn it on. It sets this to auto, so I will set it to quality now. There we go, we're up into the 90s, almost touching 100 frames per second. This is a much smoother experience. Of course, there is that added input lag by frame generation. With 90 FPS, the input lag is about the same as like 50 frames or like 45 to 55 FPS most of the time, so it's not as snappy as the 60 FPS experience was, even with a couple of drops here and there from 60 frames per second. Alright, let's stop it there though, and let's try it with a little bit of ray tracing, okay? First, you know what? I will test it with resolution scaling turned off as well as frame generation. I'll disable all of these as well. And this is it, the Ray Tracing Ultra preset at 4K native. It looks absolutely stunning, guys. Holy, that is a beautiful game. Oh, thank God they now allow us to utilize the ray reconstruction option with the default ray tracing ultra settings, because previously it was only available using path tracing and you ended up with some blurry reflections by enabling DLSS on quality. So let's try it out now on quality, ray reconstruction as well at the same time. And instead of getting 30s and 20s, which was very, very bad, we're getting around the same FPS as 4K native and ultra settings without RT, which is not really that bad, honestly. I would still not play like this, so I'm gonna go ahead and set this to performance, still using ray reconstruction there. Okay, back in the roundabout area. Ooh, dropping down into the 60s. Alright, I think it's fair to say, or it's safe to say, that this is not really gonna drop from 60 FPS. Again, remember, this is a really intensive area in this game, and FPS usually drop the most around here, and since we're not really dipping into the low 60s, it's gonna be 60 plus all of the time. And on performance DLSS with ray reconstruction enabled as well, it actually looks really damn good. Next up we have the finals, and we're playing it. Wait. We're playing this at 4K using DLAA, no frame generation, and the dynamic epic RTX global illumination, as well as the epic settings. So the game is basically maxed out at native 4K res, and it shouldn't drop from 60 FPS. I hope. I will be very disappointed if it does. Oh, we got some enemies here. Wait, there we go. One down. I am super low HP. Gotta get out of here. All right, so this isn't really going to be that super high refresh rate competitive experience, you know, that you might have hoped for $1,000 GPU, but it's certainly a very beautiful one indeed. Mega damage incoming. What the heck is that? There's one there. Come on, explode there, bastard. Let's go. Come on. I'm gonna get you, boy. No, don't run away from me. I'm gonna reload. Wait. There he is. There he is. I got you. Yeah, there we go. Another kill in the bag. Let's keep on going. 1% lows are at 60 plus, which is great, of course. And that's what you want. Can I go up using this? Yeah, there we go. Oh, wait. Come on. Wait, let's go down there, actually. Look at over here, boy. I will get you. There we go. Good stuff. Also, while we're going up, I'm just gonna enable some DLSS to showcase the performance to you guys. Quality DLSS usually bumps up our FPS by a lot in this title. And look at that. Now we're up into the 130s with, again, basically the same visuals as native res. It's only over here in those edges that I can see quite a bit of aliasing, you know? Look at this, we're here around vegetation, it's still getting 120 plus FPS, explosions, smokes, and so on. 110 actually, it drops to the 110s apparently. Let me explode this. Explosion effects doesn't really seem to drop our FPS, that's great to see. Alright, I got more farts, my friends, I got more farts! Die with my farts, boy! There we go. So yeah, if you want a good high refresh rate experience here without being too competitive of an experience, you can still have it with ray tracing enabled and epic settings. All you need is DLSS and it's gonna run extremely well, as you can see. Oh boy! No. Okay, she's confused. Alright, we got this. Alright, that's it. This was a buttery smooth experience. Let's move on. Next up is Red Dead Redemption 2 at 4K using maximum settings, no upscalers here, and the only thing I changed is the water physics. I set it to the middle of the slider there, as well as the motion blur. There it is. It's turned off as well. So if I didn't lower the water physics here, I would be getting around like 60 to 65 FPS in this particular area with a lot of water, and that worries me because that means that it would probably drop from 60 FPS from time to time, but just adjusting that little setting there puts us well above 70 FPS most of the time, actually. I would not use DLSS in this one, by the way, because it looks pretty bad. It introduces some dots for some reason in fur and in Arthur's hair, as well as Roach's hair. By the way, hello Roach, how's it going, buddy? Everything alright? Can't really hear Jack around here, by the way. Let's see if we can find him him, though. Ooh, look at that, guys. Dropping down into the 60s, mid-60s around here with a lot of vegetation. Yeah, I don't think we'll see Jack Roach. I am so sorry. Our friend is not here today to see us. Maybe because he doesn't find the 4080 Super to be that exciting of a product. I don't know, mate. The real improvement of the... Oh my god! No! No, 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 no. Roach, are you okay? Are you okay? Is everything alright, buddy? Uh-oh. No, he's dead. Well, he's not dead. He's just resting there, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and get this. Okay. Yes, please. Thank you very much for your chariot, buddy. There we go. Strawberry Town. This is one of the most intensive towns in the entire game because it has a river coming through it. And, of course, the water is super, super demanding. Okay, okay. Time to go. Time to go. I'm gonna walk from now. 60s around here. Yeah, there we go. And the 70s looking at the river. 70s looking at here. All right. Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty confident saying that it won't really drop from 60 FPS. Great performance right here. Alright guys, now we got Call of Duty Warzone 3. And we're playing this one at 4K resolution using 100% resolution scale, no upscaling or sharpening, and the extreme graphics preset without depth of field. And we're here, I'm gonna start counting our FPS. We're getting 120s, touching 130 at times. Not bad whatsoever, my friends. This is actually really, really smooth on a high refresh rate monitor for sure. Now, where you're gonna see the lowest FPS in this game is near water, and I'm gonna go there in just a little bit. And if you shoot at water, that's where things become really problematic, actually, because it drops like crazy for some reason. They didn't really optimize the water in this game. Still, most of the time you can expect around 130-ish frames per second and a really, really smooth experience indeed. Oh, hello there. Stop camping around, boy. Okay, I think he got scared already. Okay, here we have it. Water area getting 100-ish FPS, and if I start shooting the damn thing, it drops into the 80s. Lower 80s is the minimum that we'll see here with the 4080 Super. Really, really nice, guys. This is definitely how I'd play this game. DLSS does look decent, you know, but you can actually tell the difference between it on and off in this particular title. It looks a little bit worse with it on. So yeah, if you want that native resolution experience, yeah, you can have it with high refresh rate still. Next is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, my friends. I'm not sure why I started saying it like this, but you guys liked it, so yeah. We're playing at 4K at the moment with the scaling mode off. I actually thought that this unbiased and ultra quality was native resolution because it looks literally the same, but yeah, it isn't. It's only native resolution when I actually turn this off, and we're utilizing the ultra settings preset without motion blur, so everything is basically maxed out. Hello, how you doing, buddy? Oh, no, 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 please, please, I just wanted to see you, if you were doing all right or something. Oh, okay, I'm gonna throw you some grenades. Just, yeah, okay, I didn't want to do this. For the record, I did not want to do this, okay, guys? I am very much against the cruelty of the killing animals in games and stuff. That's why we love Jack so much, you know? The VRAM utilization, though, oh my gosh, 14.5 gigs almost, or around 14 gigs of VRAM utilization using these settings. So it's really, really intensive, and it shows. I mean, we're getting like 40-ish frames per second. It's a little bit better, I think, than the 4080. I didn't really test the 4080 in this particular area, but I remember that card dropping a little bit further into like the mid-30s, and this is one of the most intensive areas that I've come across. Now, let's enable DLSS on quality next. This is just the default quality presets that you'd utilize in other games, and like this, it looks basically the same, maybe a little bit softer, and the water looks a little bit worse as well, unfortunately. Also, yeah, the clouds are a little shimmery, but not really to the point where it's super distracting like it was at like 1440p, for example. And now we're getting well above 60 frames per second. So this is definitely how I choose to play this game, okay? It's a very smooth experience for a single player game like this one, indeed. And as you can see, even here in this camp area, with all of this detail, it's not dropping from 60 FPS. It's actually above 70 most of the time, which is pretty damn good, my friends. Hello, Jax, how's it going? Nice to see you guys. I really don't want to do this, but please stop. There we go. Alright, we can negotiate, see that? Now it's the super well optimized Forza Horizon 5 at 4K using 2x MSAA, no upscaling, and the maximum settings, okay? And look at this beauty, my friends, 100 plus FPS, it's gonna be buttery smooth of an experience. Look at this now, the festival area dropping into the 1 teens. Okay, it's all good, we're still gonna jump, it's just not gonna be as good of a jump as usual, but it's fine. Also, yeah, I almost forgot, but usually around these areas in the middle of the desert, basically with a lot of vegetation. I know it's weird, desert with vegetation, but it is what it is. It drops quite a bit when you're using the extreme settings or the ultra settings and above. Alright, finally in the city, and it's dropping into the lower 100s, but it's still gonna be a high refresh rate experience at native 4K resolution. Finally, the tunnel area, it drops to 92 frames per second at the absolute minimum. It's safe to say it's an awesome and flawless experience in this one. Next, we have Spider-Man Remastered at 4K resolution using DLAA, so it's native res, and we're using the maximum settings here with very high ray tracing. Alright guys, here we have it. We got all of the accurate reflections right here because of ray tracing. I'm gonna start counting our FPS, and we're getting 60 plus frames per second, at least so far, but I think it's gonna dip down into the 50s in just a little bit. Look at that, 60s, okay. Now this is native resolution, remember that, it's super intensive, 59 right there, and it's still getting 60 plus most of the time, but I mean, there are gonna be some missions with explosions and stuff like that where the FPS are gonna drop by quite a bit. Oh boy, it actually dipped to like 50 or 40s actually, 48. Oh, whoa, hello there, what is happening? Hello, what the heck? Why do you want to kill me? Come, stop it, you bastards. There we go. It's probably Bob, you know. I'm gonna enable some frame generation right now, and that should put us well above 60, 100% of the time. There we go, 100 FPS. Okay, that's much better. I'm gonna start counting our FPS here. It drops down into the 80s at the minimum, I guess. Not a problem. And around this area, things are actually performing a little bit better. It's interesting, whenever you don't have ray tracing enabled, this is the most intensive area in the game, because all of the vegetation is here, basically, and that's really intensive in most games. But once you enable ray tracing, it ends up being a little bit less intensive than the streets over there, with all of the cars and ray tracing effects and so on. Next is Counter-Strike 2 at 4K, and yes, I'm using 60Hz because there is no capture card that supports 4K 120. Please, companies, what are you doing? Release one already? Anyways, that's probably why I'm gonna lose this deathmatch, but we're playing using the very high settings preset with no anti-aliasing. Oh, I got the guy. Nice. So this is a really smooth experience, of course, good for like a 240 Hz or a 144 Hz 4K monitor for sure. Of course, if you want to play these games competitively, you'll want the low settings preset, which will give you like 500 frames per second or something crazy like that, but that would actually become a little bit CPU bound probably. So I'm testing very high here so we can put some strain on the GPU, and GPU usage is maxed out here in CS2. Now the question is, can we finish first place in this one? Oh my, okay, there we go. That was a weird headshot actually. Let's go. Concentration is key, my friends. We're stuck in second place still. That's no good. There's a guy right here. First one is actually a girl, Beatrice. Girls can play this game very well. Sometimes Digimoon would be first place when we went competitive a few years ago, you know? Good times, my friends, when I cared about being good in CSGO. You know what? These results are not really that great, guys, because when we see the smokes, it will probably drop by quite a lot, okay? Well, that's it. 2 seconds left. Yeah, she got the first place, but we were better. No, we weren't. All right, ready, guys? Smoke throwing time. Let's see how much it drops near it. 160, so for 144 Hz 4K monitors, you're still gonna be above the refresh rate all of the time, although you're gonna feel those slowdowns probably. And over here, throwing an AG grenade on top of it is really intensive, and it drops us into the 120 20s. So again, it's definitely super playable and very, very smooth, but if you want the best experience out of this, what the heck are you doing there? You probably want to lower down the settings like medium or even low for that super competitive play. Next is the good old and very popular GTA 5 at 4K resolution using no MSAA at the moment and the maximum settings right here, aside from post effects, which introduces motion blur even with the sliders set to the minimum, and bloom, which I don't like, and over here everything is maxed out as well. Now, this is getting close to the engine limit of 188 frames per second at times. Look at that, 170s. Oh boy, yeah, once it touches 188, there is a possibility that it will stutter a little bit. So it's best to actually utilize some MSAA anti-aliasing or just lock the FPS to like 165 so you are never close to that 188 FPS mark. What I'm gonna do, because this is a benchmark and I don't want to lock the FPS, is enable MSAA 2 times, and it's still gonna provide an overall high refresh rate experience while allowing you to not reach that 188 FPS mark and make the game stuttery like crazy. But yeah, this is great performance to be expected once again, because this is a 10-year-old title. Actually, it's an 11-year-old title. It released in 2013 for the PS3 and Xbox 360, 2014 for the PS4 and Xbox One, and then finally 2015 for a best platform on Earth, PC. Yes. Jack, where are you? Oh, it's Jacqueline. Hello, how's it going? Jacqueline, say hi to Jack for me, please. And let's go down here. Of course, the grass is super, super demanding in this game, as usual, and bushes and stuff like that, so you're gonna see the lowest FPS around here. And, yeah, it's not really dropping even into the 60s. Where is Bob? I need to kill Bob. What the heck? Where did he go? Yes! Yes, it's Bob! Goodbye, Bob! No, I missed! Flippin' hell! Come on! We gotta get him. Wait, I got this. I got this, guys. Oh, there he is! Goodbye, Bob! Goodbye, Bob! There we go. There we go. Finally, guys, we made it. Oh my gosh. Hogwarts Legacy is up next, and we're playing at 4K using DLSS on quality, which actually ends up looking better than native resolution. Frame generation is turned off at the moment, and I'm using the ultra settings with ray tracing on and set to ultra as well. So this is extremely intensive, and it gets just around 60 frames per second here. It actually dips quite a bit, as you can see. But the thing is, we're actually a little bit CPU bound, as you can see. GPU usage is not maxed out, so the CPU is the one dropping us from 60 FPS, not really the GPU. Granted, GPU would still probably drop in very, very GPU-bound scenarios, like over here. Oh my god, it's dropping into the 40s. And for it to work properly and actually provide a smooth experience, we need frame generation. I'll enable that to keep everything else as is. Now the visuals are slightly softer, but they still look really good and pretty much the same as native res, maybe a little bit sharper still. And we are getting 80 plus frames per second, at least at the moment, guys. And this is a very, very intensive area right here with a lot of vegetation. It drops FPS by a lot, and we're getting 70s now. As long as we keep it above like 75, I think it's a good experience in terms of like input lag. Around here, we're still seeing a little bit of a CPU bottleneck, even with frame generation enabled. Oh, hello, Jack. How's it going? Finally, we're seeing him. Ah, so cute. There we go. Actually, these are not that cute. They look really stretched for some reason. Now we have Stutter Night at 4K resolution using DirectX 12 epic settings with DLSS quality, and that means that we have global illumination set to lumen epic and reflection set to lumen epic as well. This is basically ray tracing, so it's super, super demanding. Hardware ray tracing is also turned on, and we're getting 80 FPS or close to it while dropping, which is a good sign, but I think it is actually going to drop. That's a little bit of a shame, but again, this is But with ray tracing and all the bells and whistles enabled, the game looks gorgeous like this. Oh my god, there we go, we got him. Oh, what the heck did you throw at me? Yeah, and it's still playable, of course, but it's not what I'd aim for once again. So it could be a better experience for sure. That's why I am gonna go ahead and select Performance DLSS right away. This renders the game at 50% resolution scale or 1080p resolution and then upscales it to 4K, but it looks way better than 1080p, and I would go as far as saying that it looks very, very similar to... Oh boy, come on, there we go. It looks very similar to native resolution with... Flippin' hell, these stutters, man. Jesus. With TAA, okay? Alright, anyways, we got more people right here. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, that was a terrible idea. Well, good thing is, now we can actually see a little bit of different scenarios. Inside of here, for example, with the global illumination and stuff, we're getting 80 frames per second. Around here in a forest area with a lot of snow around, it's usually pretty intensive and it's still getting around like 80 to 90 FPS most of the time. So it's definitely going to be a great experience here at 4K resolution. Well, 4K. Next is Alan Wake 2 at 4K using DLAA, so it's native res and the maximum settings with path tracing as well. This is extremely intensive and I'm expecting like 10 FPS, honestly. And okay, 20 FPS, that's double of what I was expecting. Obviously, this is not going to be playable at native resolution. It's a terrible experience. I'm gonna try quality DLSS next, and like this, we bump it up to 30 plus frames per second. This little corridor, it's not really a corridor, but yeah. Anyway, this area is one of the most intensive ones, and it's not really dropping from 30 FPS. So if all you need is 30 frames per second, you can have that. You can lock it to 30, have that console-like experience. I'm gonna enable frame generation on top of it, and now we're up into the 50s and 60s. So it's still not enough to get 60 plus 100% of the time. It would be if I just used the high settings with high ray tracing, but these are maxed out settings, okay? So yeah, input lag is pretty terrible with 50 something FPS. I'm gonna drop it down to performance DLSS with frame generation on top, and it's a little bit softer this time, but we're finally managing 60 plus FPS 100% of the time. If it's getting 70s right here, that means that it's actually gonna be like 70 plus most of the time, with a couple of dips here and there into the 60s. And in the city area, which is a little bit less intensive than this one, it's going to be above like 80 frames per second most of the time. Again, if you disable ray tracing, for example, and the DLSS frame generation and use this on quality, for example, you can get those sweet 60 plus anyways, as you can see. So if you're not into RT, this is probably the way to go because it's sharper and it still looks really, really good. Of course, without the frame generation enabled right now, the input lag is basically non-existent. So there's that. That's another advantage, you know. But yeah, if you want path tracing, it is possible. Now we're playing Starfield at 4K using ultra settings and CAS to sharpen up the image a little bit. No upscaling or frame generation at the moment. And we're getting 60, well, barely 60. It's not 60, it's 50s, okay. So as you probably know already, this game is super intensive and it looks like a 2013 title for some reason. But hey, it's next gen because Mr. Todd Howard said so. Now, unfortunately, if you use DLSS on quality and balanced and so on, it actually introduces a lot of noise in the image, so the implementation is not really that great in this one. I'm going to use DLAA and I'm going to turn on frame generation because this actually looks the best in this game, and it gets us pretty reasonable FPS at the same time. This is now 60 plus 100% of the time. It looks exactly the same as native resolution did, maybe even a little bit sharper because of DLAA instead of CAS here, but it's extremely similar. You wouldn't really be able to tell that this is running with frame generation on top of native resolution with DLAA. Now, we also got to keep in mind that this is one of the most intensive areas in the entire game. It's a big city with a lot of NPCs galaxies and so on. And in other planets that aren't as intensive, you can see up to like 50, 60, even double the FPS that we're seeing right here, okay? So yeah, that's it for slow field. It runs all right, actually. You could also drop it down to high and achieve 60 plus at native resolution if you want to go that way, but I think I would play with these settings right here. Now it's Apex Legends. We're playing this one at 4K using maximum settings, aside from this one, which introduces stuttering. Let's go. Here we go, guys. While dropping, we're getting 160 right here, so it's a high refresh rate experience, although not as high as I expected, actually. Okay, I'm hearing people already. There he is. You, God, stop it, stop it. All right, let's go. Throw a few smokes out. Here we go, dropping down into the 150s. I'm gonna throw my ultimate in just a little bit, but yeah, inside of smokes there's no problems. Only gonna drop a little bit. I guess it's basically perfect for like a 120Hz 4K monitor or 144Hz 4K monitor. And the ultimate is ready now. I'm gonna throw it out right here. Up. Let's go. And now, worst case scenario is coming. Explosions, smoke effects, everything. And it drops it down into the low 100s. Look at this. You can actually reach 300 FPS, as you can see there. In some areas in the map, of course, it's really easy to run areas, but it is possible to get to the FPS cap of this game, which is 300 FPS. Next is The Last of Us Part 1, and look at that, my friends. 69 FPS in the menu. Perfect. So we're playing at 4K native res, okay, using the ultra settings, which is actually the auto settings for the RTX 4080 Super, and it's getting like 60 to 70 FPS around here, but I know that it's not gonna stay at 60 plus 100% of the time. In some areas you can get those 60 plus and it's gonna feel really smooth, but as you can see, we're already dropping down into the high 50s at times, and unfortunately we need some DLSS quality to save the day and put us above 60 FPS the entire time. In this game, DLSS doesn't really look that amazing, guys. You can see some noise on the water here and basically over sharpening pretty much everywhere. It looks pretty weird compared to native resolution, but at least it gives us 60 plus 100% of the time. And over here it's usually pretty intensive as well. It's getting 70 plus, 80s as well. By the way, without DLSS, I tried it for a little bit in this area and it was going down to 54 frames per second. So DLSS once again massively boosts our FPS here at 4K, making it a buttery smooth experience basically. Finally getting out here and looking back is one of the most intensive areas and scenes in the entire game, and it drops us into the high 60s, giving us 68 FPS, 1% lows. Unfortunately, it's not that 69 number anymore. But yeah, it is gonna be very smooth and super enjoyable like this. And now we have the game of the year 2023. This is Baldur's Gate 3 and we're playing it at the 4K resolution using ultra settings and DLAA, so it's native res right here. Let's start counting our FPS. Looking at it from this perspective, we're getting like high 80s, low 90s, and it's a little bit stuttery, but if you see it from above, everything is fine. It's smooth, it's playable, and we get up into the 100 FPS mark, which is totally alright for this game. I mean, you don't really need it to be a super high refresh rate experience, really, because it's gonna feel fine at 60 FPS. Even at 30 FPS, this game is playable, honestly. And if you, for some reason, require even more FPS, there's always DLSS in this game as well. Whoa. I didn't want this. Okay. Alright. Let's see some effects right now. These girls should start shooting their things in just a little bit. There we go. Come on. Ah, there we go. There it is. There it is. Some effects dropping down into the 70s there. And, oh, ouch. I guess it dipped down into the 60s, right? But yeah, it's always gonna be stable above 60 FPS. So the RTX 4080 Super over here is quite a little beast. Well, little. A big beast, yes. Unfortunately, it still doesn't get anywhere near the 4090's performance. That's just in a whole other tier. But I myself have been enjoying the RTX 4080 for the last year at 4K resolution with DLSS usually and all the bells and whistles enabled. I mean, actually, no. Sometimes I don't enable ray tracing. But hey, you're paying a lot for these GPUs, so you might want to enjoy them, and that's why I tested them with ray tracing. Obviously, if you disable ray tracing, FPS will be much higher, especially with DLSS enabled at the same time. So I think if you are looking for a $1,000 GPU, you should probably go with the RTX 4080 Super. I usually don't say go out and buy $1,000 GPUs, because that's a lot to spend on a graphics card, and I think most people would be absolutely fine, even at 4K resolution with a 4070 Super with a few compromises. Instead of like ultra settings with ray tracing, drop it down to high, add a little bit of DLSS quality, which looks great at 4K, and yeah, save $400 basically, and a little bit on the power bill as well. But if you must have this performance, if you want 4K ray tracing with DLSS, yeah, unfortunately, games have been getting really intensive, so you will need DLSS in your titles. And if you already wanted to spend up to $1,000 on a graphics card, well, 4080 Super is the best $1,000 GPU there is, basically. It's good, but it's still very pricey. The only disadvantage is probably that 16GB frame buffer. And I mean, it's not really a disadvantage per se. You saw that a lot of the games were still hitting far below 16GB of VRAM utilization, even with ray tracing enabled. But AMD offers 16GB GPUs for like half the price. And I'm not talking about the 7600 XT, that doesn't count. It's not a capable GPU to fully utilize 16GB, but a 7800 XT is. So I think this should have had a little bit more VRAM, but it's not the end of the world, because in the end, again, you can still play pretty much everything maxed out at 4K with no VRAM problems. Of course, this is just my opinion. You guys have seen the results and me playing the games and enjoying them, and well, it's up to you now. Is this worth $1,000? Let me know down in the comments. Catch you guys in the next one very soon, and as always, love you all. Bye-bye.